I remember the exact moment everything shifted, even though at the time it felt small, almost forgettable. It was a Tuesday night, late September, one of those evenings where the air finally starts to cool, but you still leave the windows cracked just to hear the crickets. I was sitting on the couch in our living room, laptop half open on my knees, pretending to finish some emails I didn't care about. Emma was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, texting. That alone wasn't unusual. Everyone texts. But there was something about the way she was doing it. Her body angled away from me, her thumb moving faster than usual. And every couple of seconds, she'd smile. Not a big smile, not something she shared, just this quiet, private curve of her lips. I noticed it, of course I did, but I didn't say anything. That was kind of my thing. I wasn't the guy who confronted things right away. I told myself it was because I trusted her. 8 years together, 3 years married. You don't build that kind of life by questioning every little shift in behavior. At least that's what I believed then. "Who are you texting?" I asked casually, not even looking up from my screen. She didn't hesitate. "Just Alyssa." Alyssa was her best friend. Safe answer. Easy answer. "Tell her I said hi," I said. "Yeah," she replied, but she didn't actually say it. I could tell. It was just something to close the conversation. That should have been my first real signal, but I let it go. That night, everything felt normal on the surface. We ate dinner, watched half an episode of something neither of us was really paying attention to, and went to bed around 11. She fell asleep quickly, like she always did, curled slightly toward my side of the bed, but not touching me. I stayed awake longer than usual. Not because of anything specific, just something felt off, like the air in the room had changed in a way I couldn't quite name. I told myself I was overthinking it. The next morning, I woke up before her. I made coffee, scrolled through my phone, and tried to shake the weird feeling from the night before. By the time she came downstairs, hair messy, wearing one of my old college t-shirts, she looked exactly like the woman I'd married. Comfortable, familiar, mine. She kissed me on the cheek and grabbed a mug. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I said. She nodded, like that was normal, like nothing at all had shifted between us. Then she sat down across from me, unlocked her phone, and that same small, private smile appeared again. I watched it happen in real time. That was when the feeling came back, stronger this time. Not jealousy, exactly, not yet. Just curiosity mixed with something sharper. "Still texting Alyssa?" I asked. She glanced up briefly. "Yeah, she's being dramatic about something with Jake." Another easy answer. Too easy. I nodded like I believed her, but I didn't, not fully. Still, I wasn't the kind of guy who went through someone's phone. I had always believed that once you crossed that line, something fundamental in the relationship was already broken. So I didn't check. I didn't ask more questions. I didn't push. I went to work instead, and I tried to forget about it. But over the next few days, little things started piling up. Not big, obvious red flags, just shifts. She started taking her phone everywhere. Bathroom, laundry room, even quick trips to the mailbox. It was always face down when she set it on the table. Notifications were suddenly silenced, and that private smile, that one I couldn't unsee now, kept showing up. I started noticing how often she was texting. Morning, afternoon, late at night, always texting. Always smiling just enough to make it feel like I wasn't part of whatever world she was in. By Friday, I couldn't ignore it anymore. We were sitting in the car outside a grocery store. I had just parked and she stayed in her seat, typing something quickly before locking her phone and slipping it into her bag. "Who are you talking to?" I asked, a little more direct this time. She exhaled softly, like the question itself was mildly annoying. "Why do you keep asking me that?" "I don't know," I said. "You just seem busy." "With texting?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, it's just Alyssa," she said again, but this time there was a slight edge to it. I studied her face. She looked calm, maybe a little defensive, but not guilty, or at least not obviously. "Okay," I said, and again I let it go. That night we had friends over, a couple we'd known for years. Wine, takeout, music playing softly in the background. It should have been one of those easy, fun nights, and for the most part it was, except I couldn't stop watching her. Not in a creepy way, just observing. She laughed at the right moments, told stories, engaged in conversations, but every now and then she'd drift. Her attention would flicker down to her phone, her fingers would move quickly, and that same small smile would appear. Once I caught it lingering a little longer than usual, and when she looked up, she saw me watching. For a split second, something passed across her face. Not panic, not exactly, but awareness, like she knew I was starting to notice. Later that night, after everyone left, we were cleaning up the kitchen together. I was rinsing glasses while she loaded the dishwasher. "You okay?" she asked suddenly. "Yeah," I said. "Why?" "You've been quiet." I shrugged. "Just tired." She nodded slowly, like she was deciding whether to push further. Then she didn't. She finished loading the dishwasher, closed it, and walked past me, brushing her hand lightly against my back. A small gesture, familiar, but something about it felt practiced, like she was checking a box. That thought stuck with me. The next morning, everything changed. I woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. She was still asleep, breathing softly, completely unaware. I stared at the phone. The screen lit up briefly, just enough for me to see a name. Not Alyssa. It was a guy's name, Ryan. And before I could think better of it, I picked up the phone. I didn't unlock it. I didn't go digging. I just looked at the notification preview. It was enough. Can't stop thinking about last time. My chest tightened instantly. Last time? What the hell did that mean? I set the phone back down exactly where it had been, my heart pounding harder than I wanted to admit. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd just seen. Ryan. I knew that name. Not from our current life, not from our circle of friends. From before. From her past. Her ex. The one she dated in college. The one she'd once described as a mistake she learned from. The one she swore she'd never go back to. That Ryan. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. But I didn't wake her up. I didn't confront her right then. Instead, I got out of bed quietly and went downstairs. I made coffee with shaky hands, trying to piece together what this meant. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was an old message. Maybe it was out of context. Maybe... No, I couldn't even finish that thought without knowing I was lying to myself. About 20 minutes later, she came downstairs. She looked normal, completely normal. Morning, she said, grabbing a mug. Morning, I replied, watching her carefully. She poured coffee, added cream, and then checked her phone. I saw it happen. The moment she read that message again. That same small smile. That same private world I wasn't part of. And then, like it was nothing, like it was the most casual thing in the world, she looked up at me and said, "Oh, by the way, I was thinking about taking a trip next month." I blinked. "A trip?" "Yeah," she said, stirring her coffee. "Just a short vacation. I kind of need a break." "Okay," I said slowly. "Where were you thinking?" She hesitated, just for a second. Then she shrugged lightly, like it didn't matter. "California, maybe, or somewhere warm." "That sounds nice," I said. "We can plan something together." She shook her head. "No, I was actually thinking of going alone." Alone. The word landed heavier than it should have. "Alone?" I repeated. "Yeah," she said, still not quite meeting my eyes. "Just clear my head, you know?" I studied her face, trying to read what was underneath the calm tone. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Of course," she said quickly. "I just want a little space. It's not a big deal." Space. Another word that didn't sit right. But before I could respond, she added something else. Something that would replay in my mind over and over again for weeks. She smiled, almost playfully, and said, "Oh, and don't be weird about it, okay?" I frowned slightly. "Weird how?" She waved her hand like it was nothing. "Like, don't get jealous or anything." My chest tightened. Jealous. The word felt deliberate, targeted. And suddenly, everything, the texting, the smiling, the message from Ryan, it all started lining up in a way I couldn't ignore anymore. I leaned back in my chair, watching her carefully. "Why would I get jealous?" I asked. She met my eyes this time, and for the first time I saw something there I hadn't seen before. Not guilt, not fear, confidence. The kind that comes from someone who thinks they're in control. "Oh, I don't know," she said lightly. "Just saying." Then she picked up her phone again and started typing. I didn't say anything else that morning, not because I didn't want to, but because I could feel something shifting under my feet, and I needed to understand what it was before I made a move. Confronting her right then, while everything was still blurry, felt like stepping into a fight I wasn't prepared for. So I played it quiet. I nodded, finished my coffee, and acted like her saying, "Don't get jealous" about a solo vacation didn't feel like a warning disguised as a joke. But inside, nothing was calm anymore. All day at work, I couldn't focus. Emails stacked up, meetings blurred together. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected it to be her, confessing something, explaining something, saying anything that would make this make sense. But she didn't text me much at all, which somehow made it worse. Around noon, I finally gave in and searched his name. Ryan. I didn't even need a last name. I already knew it. It had been years, but some things stick whether you want them to or not. I typed it into Instagram first, then Facebook. It didn't take long to find him. Same guy. Maybe a little older, a little more polished, but unmistakably him. Still had that confident, slightly smug look in his photos. The kind of guy who knew exactly how attractive he was and leaned into it. I scrolled longer than I should have. Photos of him traveling, hiking, at bars with friends. A few pictures with different women over the past couple years. None of them consistent. none of them recent enough to suggest anything serious. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. A photo from 2 months ago, location tagged in our city. I stared at it for a long time. He wasn't just some distant memory she was texting out of nostalgia. He was here, had been here, maybe still was. That changed everything. By the time I got home that evening, I had already decided I wasn't going to pretend anymore. Not fully. I still wasn't going to explode or accuse her outright, but I needed more information. I needed her to talk. She was in the living room when I walked in, curled up on the couch, phone in hand. Of course. She looked up and smiled. Hey, I said, setting my keys down. I watched her for a second before sitting across from her. How was your day? Busy, she said. Yours? Same. There was a pause. Not awkward exactly, but not easy either. I leaned forward slightly. So, about that trip. Her expression didn't change much, but I noticed how her grip tightened just a little around her phone. What about it? She asked. You said you wanted to go alone. Yeah. Why? She sighed softly, like she'd expected this question eventually. I told you, I just need some space, time to think. About what? She hesitated again. Life, she said finally. Us, everything. That word, us, hit harder than anything else she'd said so far. What does that mean? I asked. It means exactly what it sounds like, she replied, her tone calm but firmer now. Things have been off lately. Off? I repeated. Since when? I don't know. A while. I felt something sharp twist in my chest. That's news to me. She shrugged slightly. That's kind of the point. There it was. The first real crack. I sat back, trying to keep my voice steady. So, instead of talking to me about it, you decided to just take a solo vacation? It's not like that, she said. Then what is it like? She looked at me then, really looked. And for a moment I thought she might actually open up. But instead, she deflected. You're already getting defensive, she said. This is why I didn't want to bring it up like this. Like what? I asked. Honestly? Like a confrontation. I let out a quiet, humorless laugh. Emma, you told me you want to go on a solo trip and then told me not to get jealous. What did you expect? She rolled her eyes slightly. No, I said, shaking my head. You didn't. That landed. I could tell. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she stood up, pacing a little like she needed movement to stay composed. I just need space, she said again, softer this time. That's all. And you can't get that here? I asked. No, she said immediately. Too quickly. That told me everything I needed to know about that question. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep everything from boiling over. Are you talking to someone? I asked. There it was, out in the open. She froze, just for a second. Then she turned back to me, her face controlled, almost neutral. What kind of question is that? A direct one. She crossed her arms. No. The answer came fast, clean, practiced. Too practiced. Really? I said quietly. Yes, she replied, holding my gaze. I watched her for a long moment, searching for any sign of hesitation, any crack. But she held steady. And that almost made it worse, because now I knew she was capable of lying to my face without flinching. I nodded slowly. Okay. And just like that, the conversation ended. At least on the surface. That night, we barely spoke. We moved around each other like two people pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. Dinner was quiet. The TV was just background noise. And when we went to bed, she turned away from me almost immediately. I lay there in the dark, staring at the back of her head, replaying everything. Her words. Her tone. That message from Ryan. Can't stop thinking about last time. Last time. It kept echoing. At some point, I realized something that my chest felt tight in a completely different way.
There had been a last time, which meant whatever this was, it wasn't just texting. I didn't sleep much. The next day, I made a decision I never thought I'd make. I was going to check her phone. I told myself it wasn't about invading her privacy. It was about confirming reality, about not letting myself be gaslit into believing something that didn't make sense. That afternoon, she went out to run errands. Grocery store, pharmacy, normal Saturday stuff. She left her laptop open on the kitchen table. Not her phone, her laptop. I stood there staring at it for a solid minute, my heart already starting to race. Then I sat down. I didn't even know exactly what I was looking for at first, but instinct took over. I opened her messages app, half expecting to find nothing. But there it was, a conversation pinned at the top. Ryan, no last name needed. My chest tightened as I clicked it open. The messages loaded instantly, And just like that, everything I'd been trying to rationalize, minimize, or doubt disappeared. Because it wasn't vague. It wasn't harmless. It wasn't innocent. It was detailed, explicit, real. Scrolling through it felt like watching my entire marriage unravel in real time. There were weeks of messages, maybe months. I couldn't even tell where it started because it just kept going. Flirting at first, inside jokes, then reminiscing, talking about college, old memories, things they used to do together. Then it shifted. The tone changed. It got more personal, more intimate. And then I saw it. The moment everything crossed a line. A message from her. I shouldn't have come over that night, but I don't regret it. My stomach dropped so hard it felt physical. I kept reading even though every part of me wanted to stop. His reply. I don't either. Been thinking about it nonstop. Then hers again. We can't keep doing that. A pause in the conversation. Then his response. Then why do you keep texting me? And her answer. The one that made something inside me go completely still. Because I can't stop. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen, trying to process what I was looking at. This wasn't a maybe. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She had seen him, in person, at least once, probably more. And whatever happened that night, it wasn't something she regretted. It was something she was trying and failing to walk away from. I kept scrolling. More messages, more proof, more pieces of a reality I hadn't agreed to but was now fully inside. And then I found the part that connected everything. Her trip. She had told him about it. I'm thinking of taking a trip next month. Just need an excuse to get away for a bit. His reply came almost instantly. Come with me. Her response. That's a terrible idea. A pause. Then, but also, not really. And finally, my husband can't find out. I stared at that last line for a long time. Not because it surprised me, but because of how casually she said it. Like I was just an obstacle. Something to work around. Something temporary. Not a person. Not her husband. Just a detail. I closed the laptop slowly, my hands steady now in a way they hadn't been before. Something had shifted inside me. The confusion was gone. The doubt was gone. All that was left was clarity. Cold, sharp, undeniable clarity. She wasn't just thinking about leaving. She was already halfway out the door. And worse than that, she thought I was too blind to notice. I sat there in the quiet kitchen, staring at nothing, letting it all settle into place. Then for the first time since this started, I allowed myself to think about what came next. Not what she was doing, not what she might do, but what I was going to do. And for the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was planning. I didn't confront her that day. That's probably the part people wouldn't expect. Most guys, once they see something like that, they either explode immediately or shut down completely. I didn't do either. I just adjusted. Because the moment I closed that laptop, I realized something important. She thought she was ahead of me. She thought she was controlling the situation, managing the timing, deciding what I knew and when I knew it. And that gave me an advantage. As long as she believed I was still in the dark, I had time. Time to think, time to decide exactly how I wanted this to end. She came back about an hour later, arms full of grocery bags, acting completely normal, like she hadn't spent weeks building a secret life behind my back. Can you grab the door? She called out. I got up, opened it, and helped her carry everything inside. Our hands brushed once as we reached for the same bag, and she smiled at me like nothing had changed. That smile almost made me laugh. Almost. Thanks, she said, setting everything on the counter. No problem, I replied, keeping my tone even. I watched her move around the kitchen, unpacking groceries, humming softly to herself. She looked relaxed, comfortable, like a person who believed everything was under control. Did you end up going to the pharmacy? I asked casually. Yeah, she said. Why? No reason, just remembered you said you needed something. She nodded. Got it. Small talk. Normal conversation. The kind of thing couples do every day. Except now it felt like a performance. And the strangest part was I could play my role perfectly. That night, I suggested we go out to dinner. She looked a little surprised. Like, just us? Yeah, I said. We haven't done that in a while. For a second, I thought she might say no, or hesitate. But instead, she smiled. Okay, that sounds nice. We went to this place downtown we used to love. Low lighting, good cocktails, the kind of restaurant where everything feels a little more intimate than it really is. We sat across from each other, ordered drinks, and started talking. At first, it was surface-level stuff. Work, mutual friends, random things.
But as the night went on, something shifted. She relaxed. I could see it happening in real time. Because from her perspective, this probably felt like reassurance. Like whatever tension had been building between us was fading. Like she had more time. "Remember when we used to come here all the time?" she said at one point, smiling over her glass. "Yeah," I said. "Back when we first moved in together." She laughed softly. "We thought we were so grown up." "We were," I said. "Just less complicated." That made her pause. "Things aren't that complicated," she said. But there was something careful in her tone now. I tilted my head slightly. "Aren't they?" She studied me for a moment, like she was trying to read something beneath the surface. "Is this about earlier?" she asked. "Partly," I said. She exhaled quietly. "I told you, I just need a little space." "And you think going on a trip alone is going to fix that?" "I think it'll help me think clearly." "About us?" "Yes." There it was again. Us. Except now I knew what thinking about us actually meant. It meant figuring out how to transition from one relationship to another with things blowing up. I took a sip of my drink, letting the silence stretch just a little. Then I asked, "Would you ever actually leave?" Her eyes flicked up to mine immediately. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one." She hesitated. And for the first time since this started, I saw something honest break through. "I don't know," she said quietly.
That answer didn't hurt the way I thought it would. Maybe because I already knew. "Do you want to?" I asked. She looked down at the table, tracing the rim of her glass with her finger. "I don't know," she repeated. But this time it felt different. Less like uncertainty, more like avoidance. I leaned back slightly, studying her. "You know," I said, keeping my voice calm, "most people don't start questioning their entire marriage out of nowhere." She looked up again, sharper now. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means something usually triggers it. Or," she said, her tone tightening, "it builds over time." "Sure," I said. "That too." We held eye contact for a few seconds. Then she looked away. And just like that, the moment passed. We finished dinner, paid the bill, walked back to the car. From the outside, we probably looked like any normal couple. But inside, everything had already changed. Over the next few days, I started preparing. Not emotionally, practically. I went through our finances, bank accounts, shared expenses, credit cards. I made copies of everything I might need. I checked our lease, looked into legal options, not because I was rushing into anything, but because I wasn't going to be caught off guard. At the same time, I kept observing her. The texting didn't stop. If anything, it got more frequent. And now that I knew what I was looking at, the patterns were obvious. She'd step outside to take calls, she'd smile at her phone and then look up at me like she needed to make sure I wasn't paying attention. Once, I caught her deleting messages. She didn't realize I was behind her. She just assumed I wasn't watching. That was the thing that got me the most. Not just the betrayal, the assumption that I was too unaware to notice. By Thursday, I decided it was time to push things a little further. Not confrontation, pressure. We were sitting in the living room again, almost exactly like that first night, when I said, "So, have you figured out your trip yet?" She glanced up from her phone. "Not exactly. You still thinking California?" "Maybe," she said. "Why?" I shrugged, just curious. She studied me for a second. "You're being weird about this." I almost smiled. I thought I wasn't supposed to be jealous. Her expression shifted slightly. "I didn't say you couldn't have opinions." "Good," I said, "because I do." She set her phone down slowly now, giving me her full attention. "Okay," she said. "What are they?" I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "I think if you feel like you need to get away from me to figure things out, then something's already broken." She didn't respond right away. "And I think," I continued, "that whatever you're trying to figure out probably isn't happening in California." That landed harder than anything I'd said so far. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, holding her gaze, "I don't think this is about a vacation." Silence filled the room. Heavy, thick. She picked up her phone again, almost like a reflex, then set it back down. "You're overthinking this," she said, but her voice wasn't as steady as before. "Am I?" "Yes." "Okay," I said, "then prove it." She blinked. "Prove what?" "That I have nothing to worry about." Her jaw tightened slightly. "I don't need to prove anything." That was it. That was the confirmation. Not the messages, not the trip, that right there. Because someone with nothing to hide doesn't say that. They reassure, they explain, they don't draw a line. I nodded slowly. Got it. She looked at me like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. And just like that, the conversation ended again. But this time it felt different. Because now she knew.
Not everything, but enough. Enough to realize I wasn't as clueless as she thought. That night, she stayed up later than usual. Sitting on the couch, texting, I watched her from the hallway for a minute before she noticed me. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Something like that," I said. She gave me a small smile. "Me neither." I nodded, then turned and went back to the bedroom. I didn't push, I didn't confront, because I wasn't ready yet, but I was close, very close, and she could feel it. I think that's why she sent the message the next morning, the one that changed everything. I was at work when my phone buzzed. Her name popped up on the screen. I opened the message, and there it was. Clear, direct, almost casual. "Hey, just so you know, I'm going on that trip next month." I stared at the screen. Then another message came through. "And I'm going with Ryan. Please don't make this a big deal. Don't be jealous." I read it twice, then a third time. Not because I didn't understand it, but because of how easily she said it. Like she'd already decided how I was supposed to react. Like my feelings were just a detail. Something to manage, something to control. I felt something settle in my chest then. Not anger, not yet. Something colder, something final. Because in that moment, I realized something very simple. She wasn't hiding anymore, which meant she thought she didn't have to. And that was her biggest mistake. I locked my phone, leaned back in my chair, and stared out the window. For the first time since this started, I wasn't reacting emotionally at all. I was calm, focused, clear. Because now everything was out in the open, and I knew exactly what I was going to do next. I didn't respond to her message right away. I just sat there at my desk, phone in my hand, reading it over and over like the words might rearrange themselves into something less insane. "I'm going with Ryan. Don't be jealous." That line kept echoing, not because it hurt the most, but because of how casually she said it. Like she was telling me she'd be home late from work. Like it didn't completely dismantle everything we'd built. And the craziest part, she expected me to just accept it. I let about an hour pass before I replied. "Okay." That was it. One word. I stared at the screen after I sent it, waiting. It didn't take long. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. "Okay?" "Yeah," I typed back. "You said don't make it a big deal. I'm not." There was a longer pause this time. Then, "I appreciate that." I actually laughed under my breath. She appreciated that. Like I was doing her a favor by not reacting to her telling me she was going on vacation with her ex. That was when I knew without any doubt exactly how far gone the situation was, and exactly how blind she'd become to it. From that moment on, everything I did had a purpose. I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't hoping things would somehow fix themselves. I was setting the stage. That weekend, I told her we should have people over again. Nothing big, just a small get-together. A few close friends. She looked a little surprised, but she agreed. "Yeah, that could be fun," she said. Fun? That word almost felt ironic. Over the next few days, I made quiet moves. I talked to a lawyer, got everything I needed lined up. Papers drafted, finances separated, options clear. I didn't tell anyone what was going on. Not yet. Because this wasn't about venting, it was about timing. By Friday night, everything was ready. The house was clean, drinks stocked, music queued. People started showing up around 7. Same couple as before, plus a few others. Familiar faces. People who had known us for years.
People who had watched our relationship grow from the beginning. Emma played her role perfectly, laughing, hosting, moving through the room like nothing in her life was falling apart behind the scenes. If anything, she seemed lighter, like she had already emotionally checked out and was just coasting until the next chapter. At one point, I caught her in the kitchen, typing quickly on her phone, that same private smile on her face. I walked up behind her quietly. "Ryan?" I said. She flinched. Actually flinched. Then she turned around, her expression shifting instantly from startled to controlled. "What?" "Just guessing," I said calmly. She forced a small laugh. "You're being weird again." "Am I?" "Yes." I held her gaze for a second longer than necessary. Then I nodded. "Okay." And I walked away. I could feel it now, the tension sitting just under the surface. She knew something was off, but she still didn't know how much I knew, and that uncertainty was starting to get to her. By around 9, everyone had settled into the living room, drinks in hand, music playing low, conversations overlapping. It felt like every other night we'd hosted, except it wasn't. I stood there for a moment, looking around the room. These people, this house, this life. And I realized something that surprised me. I wasn't sad. Not in the way I thought I'd be. I wasn't grieving. I was done. Completely. That's when I made my move. I walked over to the TV, picked up the remote, and muted the music. The room quieted down almost instantly. Everyone looked at me, Emma included. "What's up?" one of our friends asked, smiling. I took a breath. Not a shaky one, a steady one.
I actually wanted to say something, I said. Emma's eyes locked onto mine immediately. There it was, that flicker of concern, of uncertainty. I figured, I continued, since we've all known each other for so long, it didn't feel right keeping things quiet. Now the room was completely still. You could feel it, that shift from casual to something else, something heavier. Emma stood up slowly. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice low. I didn't look at her right away. I kept my focus on the room. "Emma and I are getting divorced." The words landed clean, sharp, final. Silence followed. Real silence. Not awkward chatter, not confusion, just stillness. Then, almost all at once, people started reacting. "What? Wait, what are you talking about? Is this a joke?" I finally looked at her. She looked like the ground had just dropped out from under her. "What are you doing?" she repeated, louder now. I met her gaze. "Just being honest," I said. Her face flushed. "This is not how you talk about something like this." "Isn't it?" "No," she snapped. "It's not. We haven't even talked about it?" I cut in. Her jaw tightened. "Yes." I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "Then let's talk about it." I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and opened the screenshots. I had spent the last couple of days collecting them. Messages, dates, everything. Not to obsess, to document. "To make it simple," I said, my voice still calm, "Emma's been seeing someone else." The room shifted again. Shock, confusion, eyes moving between us. "That's not," she started. I turned the phone around and held it up just enough for the people closest to see. Not everything, just enough. Her words, clear as day. "I shouldn't have come over that night, but I don't regret it." That was all it took. Her voice cut off instantly. I watched it happen. The moment she realized she couldn't control the narrative anymore. "That's private," she said, but her voice had lost its edge. It sounded thinner now. "Was it?" I asked. "Did it feel private when you told him you were planning a vacation together?" Her eyes widened, and there it was, the final crack. "You went through my stuff?" she said. I almost smiled. That was her angle. That was the thing she chose to focus on, not what she did. How I found out. "Does it matter?" I asked. "Yes, it does," she snapped. "That's a huge violation." "A violation?" I repeated, my voice still even. "You're going on a trip with your ex and telling me not to be jealous." "That's not—" "It is," I said, cutting her off again. "That's exactly what it is." She looked around the room, like she was searching for support. But no one was stepping in. No one was defending her, because they could all see it, clear as day. "I was going to tell you," she said, softer now. "When?" I asked. She didn't answer. "After the trip?" I continued. "After you figured out if he was a better option?" "That's not fair," she said. I nodded slowly. "You're right," I said. "It's not." Another silence. This one heavier, final. I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope, set it on the table in front of her. "What's that?" she asked, even though I think she already knew. "Divorce papers," I said. Her hand hovered over it, but she didn't pick it up. I already signed my part. She stared at it like it might disappear if she didn't touch it. "This is insane," she whispered. "No," I said quietly. "This is what happens." She looked up at me then, really looked. And for the first time since this started, I saw it. Not confidence, not control. Fear, regret, maybe even realization. But it was too late for any of that to matter. "You're just ending it like this?" she asked. I held her gaze. "You already did," I said. That was the last thing I said to her that night. I grabbed my keys, my jacket, and walked out. No yelling, no scene, no looking back. Just the sound of the door closing behind me. And for the first time in weeks, everything felt quiet again. Not empty, not broken, just clear.